that would participate with us, we'd ask you to stand at this time, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our beautiful city. We pray for our first responders, as always, that they risk their lives every single day for us. We pray for the folks that are out sick today, and that you'll be with them and be with their families, and just bless this meeting and bless the upcoming election, so your will be done. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Let's call the meeting to order, and I will ask the clerk to please take roll.
Coleman,
Here.
Mandelbaum,
Here.
Gatto,
Here.
County,
Here.
Bozen,
Here.
Westergaard. Here. Gray.
Here. Been doing it forever.
We're all
You got a
here.
full complement, right?
Yeah.
All right. Before we switch to item 2, quickly, Matt, I want you, we have a new person in the audience that we kind of announced last time, but maybe I'd like to have you, I think I saw Malcolm back there. Introduce Malcolm.
It'd be my pleasure. This is Malcolm Hankins' first city council meeting as our new assistant city manager. He and his family have moved here from Aurora, Colorado. So everybody, Malcolm in the back of the room. He comes with a great wealth of experience in community development in a few different cities in the West and Southwest. So I think he's going to be a great addition. We were really excited to get him.
Congratulations, Malcolm. All right. All right, item 2 on the agenda is approving the agenda as presented and/or as amended. And let me quickly check. There are a couple of amendments and changes. Item 10E is withdrawn by the city manager. Item 10F is withdrawn by the city manager. 11.1 and 11, Roman numeral 1 and Roman numeral 2, 11. Both of those were also withdrawn. Item 23 is corrected. It says 8,000 reduced size of the permanent easement, and 24 is corrected, $250. Item 42A was added. This is a renaming of the Mike McPherson Tennis Courts to the Birdland Sports Park Tennis Courts, and the sponsor is Councilmember Coleman. Item 49 is corrected. It's an ordinance. Effective date will be January 1 of 2020. There is an additional extra item at the direction to direct the city manager on a tax levy, and we'll go over that as the extra item. Other than that, I think if somebody gives a motion.
I'll move it.
Can I ask a question first? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Did we have to take action on the East Village parking garage?
I pulled it.
Okay, so okay, thank you.
I actually just pulled off the whole rate of item 49 that I'm going to speak.
Okay,
But yes,
All right.
I know where you're going with that. I'll move item 2.
Okay, item 2 has been moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Item 3 is approving the consent agenda tonight. Those are items 3 through 50, and generally we take these, they're routine items and are acted as a single roll call unless either a member of our council asks to pull one for further clarification or discussion, or someone from the audience asks similar questions and wants some clarification. So for this evening, again, items 3 through 50. Item 4B and 4Z, Councilmember Coleman votes no. Item 4J, Councilmember Coleman wants to speak. Item 5, County votes no. Item 7, Coleman wishes to speak. Item 42, Coleman and Westergaard wish to speak. Item 43, Mandelbaum wishes to speak. And item 49, Councilmember Gatto wishes to speak. Are there any other items anyone would like to have pulled? Again, those are items 3 through 50.
I'll move it.
All right, seeing none, item's been moved.
Seven, zero. Motion carried.
can you see your agenda?
All right, item 4 is approving alcohol beverage licenses, and J in this case is district. It's at 216 Court Avenue, and they are asking for a C liquor license. Mr. Coleman.
Thank you. I doubt Sue Ann is here. I noticed this over the weekend. We've been back and forth with a resident, actually several residents, about violation of the noise ordinance at this facility. And I think there was a dispute between our zoning officers and the business operator as to whether or not they'd allow in. So under our current ordinance, to check some of that stuff, we have to have access to the facility. Chris, do you know if that got worked out, or?
I'm not sure, I'll have to check.
I don't know when their license expires, but I think even if we delay it, they have a right to continue until we take it up next. I'd like to delay action on this if we could, Josh, 2 weeks, and
I'd be
give
supportive of that.
our zoning officers all the leverage they need to.
Yeah. Thank you for raising that.
All right, the motion on 4J then is to, what would you say, Mr.?
Continue.
So we're going to continue this item till the next meeting.
That'd be great.
7-0, motion carried.
Okay, the next one is item 7. This is a public improvement. This is approving Iowa Department of Transportation, IDOT, agreement for resurfacing of 2nd Avenue, Iowa 415, from Euclid Avenue to Northwest 72nd Place. Council Communication number 19-489. Mr. Coleman.
Thank you. I take this off. Bill and I have had the chance to talk a couple of times, as have many of us over time. I have limited times. Somebody already pointed out I'm down to my final 3 meetings. And I've served on the long-range transportation plan for the region through the MPO the last year plus it takes. And in the coming weeks, we're going to vote on a final adoption. This is a required document that kind of talks about how growth will happen in the metro area, how it affects Des Moines. One of the things that fell out of that document the last time we did the plan is we walked away from discussions and long-term plans. And when I say long-term, it's probably a decade or 2 away, of a north-south thoroughfare through town. As the council will remember, at our last workshop, we talked a little bit about 2nd Avenue, and could that be designed in a way that created more of that opportunity? For much of the last 50 years, the concept was that, ML King that connects to Highway 5 on the south side could go north to connect to the interstate or one of the state highways on the north side. In fact, the council spent significant money over that period of time to study, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Of course, any big project, we ran into this with ML King going over the Raccoon River. We ran into it with ML King going over the Des Moines River and through the southeast side. Any project that we have is in our city is ripe with considerations about impact on flooding, impact on the environment, and it would be premature for anybody to say, here's the solution to the north-south corridor. But I do think that as we begin to spend a lot of money on 2nd Avenue and realize that's not going to take the strain off of the neighborhoods on the north side, and I think about the Merle Hay Neighborhood Association, I think about Highland Park, I think about Beaver Avenue. Some of those streets in those areas have such a traffic demand that's not well managed and problem that it's really hard to run a business and do different things in those corridors because of the amount of traffic. So I would propose that the council put back on the agenda how we're going to deal with this north-south concept. I'd say 2 other things, mainly, to memorialize, my memory, and I would assure you that these are facts, that when we did the I-235 build, so if you went back in time, we kind of made that decision on the design of that in 99 and 2000, and then it was built and I think completed around 2007. We decided not to build the design that Iowa Department of Transportation recommended. They wanted it to be wider, take more houses out, and to do, a more what they called the full build. They agreed to it reluctantly to design it the way they have, with not as many lanes, which I support, in part because the city agreed to pursue a north-south corridor to take the load off of I-235. We're not seeing it as bad as it will be someday, but the long-range forecast says that we're going to have an increase of hundreds of thousands of people still in the metro area. And so that's point number one. Point number two is that along with that, when we talked about ML King and Fleur being that solution, going north to south, there was lots of talk, and I think there's documents in the city manager's office that talk about once that connection is made from, a state highway to a state highway, that would be controlled, improved, maintained by the state, which could save our citizens millions of dollars. What are we spending, $13 million on Fleur right now? Had it happened a decade ago, that would be their, cost, not ours. So I
Now,
don't know.
wait a minute.
What?
It does connect to a state highway. So we've got the Purple Heart Highway and we got 235. Those are both highways.
Right.
And it should be maintained now, and they agreed to it.
I think we can find documentation that says.
Says exactly that.
They agreed to it. That was about the time you came on the council, Mayor, I think, when, or maybe became mayor, '03, '02. So anyway, one of the undone pieces of work that I've been on, since I've been on the council, is better traffic control going north and south through town. And I think that we have to have that on the agenda, and I hope the council, as we kind of finalize a design of Second Avenue that's not going to expand the capacity, that we find it somewhere on the north side. And this was my excuse to pull it off the agenda.
I would agree with that, Chris. Let's,
Right now, they're going through a residential area.
With the
back-
press drive. Well, Lower Beaver,
Yeah.
6th Avenue, 2nd Avenue.
What's
Cutting
the
through
cross
Lower
street?
Beaver.
12th Street through Morningstar.
yeah.
Morningstar, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
that takes a lot of traffic right there.
And you kind of curve around by that old Little League
Yeah.
set of fields.
Yeah.
Labor Park and the Little League. So we're talking about a, decade plus of work to be done with DC people and state transportation and the MPO and, our own feelings about it. But I would challenge the council is, you guys are all going to be back next year, that you make this a priority to think about.
Thank you, Chris. I wholeheartedly agree and wholeheartedly support it. We've taken some pretty major hits down there on Euclid/Douglas, along that Douglas Avenue corridor. Of course, we lost Plaza Lanes, they will not rebuild. The Saigon Market in that corner is closing. They're not going to be back in business. We've got some fringe businesses that are not adding anything to the community. As you look at that stretch of road, that's pretty important to the entire city. We've got, all of our major hospitals can be reached through ML King. You can get to Broadlawns, you can get to Mercy, you can get to Methodist, you can get to Lutheran, everyone. And one of the times that I've sat and talked to Mercy Hospital, and that's why they want to be a part of the Second Avenue discussion, is because they get a lot of their people coming in from out of town. Mostly seniors, and they say they're scared to death to drive on the freeway of Des Moines. Now, if they can drive 35 miles an hour down ML King, they feel more comfortable, more safe. And so that's part of the reason that I was pushing Second Avenue to be that north-south corridor. It's not going to be. I think the time is right to look at this. If you look across the metro area, we've added new interchanges at 100th Street for Urbandale. We've added the flyover and the 141 exit in Urbandale Grimes, and we're adding a new interchange on Meredith in Urbandale. Plus, West Des Moines is getting their own interchanges over there. Ankeny is getting their own interchanges. The one missing piece of the puzzle here is where's Des Moines fit in? And why are all these going in? Each one of them represents economic development in that area. And this is an area that sorely needs some economic development. I'd like to make sure that somewhere in this next decade, hopefully we can put a focus on it this year, is that we take a look and dust off that plan, and let's make this thing a priority for this council so that this city can continue to grow and enjoy the amenities that we put our money into. So, Chris, I want to really thank you for that lead-in. That is absolutely something that we sorely need in our city and definitely in Ward 1. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mayor, thanks, Chris, for pulling it off. And I know that we've had discussions at the MPO about this. And I knew that I asked Chris about this about 2-3 years ago. Like, why have we never thought that we needed another north-south? And I know there has been a lot of pushback to make it easier for people to get out of our city. Well, the road goes both ways, folks. I mean, the road comes back into Des Moines as well as it goes out. So for that type of argument or that type of mindset, I think that's somewhat silly in my mind. So I would be very supportive of that. Obviously, we have a lot of hurdles to get through. I know February, I believe I will be the chair of the MPO, and that'll be for 2 years. So I would like to I'd like to see where the discussions would go. I know that speaking with the folks in West Des Moines and Ankeny, they were all very supportive of that being done. But they can't be the only person that would be supportive of it, because it was my understanding they got beat up pretty good the last time they tried to get it done. We are going to need some help with Polk County, because incorporated Polk County is part of it.
Most of it.
And so we're going to have to start some discussions with them and see where those discussions go. But, I think that that's something for the growth of our city and economic development that we'd be silly not to think of for the future of our kids and our grandkids and just the future of our city. You can't just have one interstate going north and south if you want to continue to grow the right way. So that's my 2 cents worth, Mayor.
Anybody else?
Well,
Go ahead.
I mean, I think these are important discussions to have, but I also think that we need to, we did a lot of good work around Move DSM, which we just adopted that transportation plan, not quite a year ago, that provides us some guidance on that. But I think we need to be mindful of the impact some of these widening projects have and what we've learned, not just from our own community, but communities around the country, because I do have questions about what that does from an economic development perspective. I think the wider, when you create wider thoroughfares, I think it creates challenges for businesses along those areas. And it creates challenges for creating the type of spaces that we're talking about and we say that we want. So I want to be mindful of that. And I also want to be mindful of one of the things that I think we need to do and are hopefully on the path to doing, which is we need to fix our existing roads first and focus on that before we widen and expand the amount of roadway that we are taking on. And so those are the lenses that I'm going to be looking at these decisions through, and I think it's important to keep those pieces in mind going forward. And Joe, as our, as chair of the MPO, I hope you'll take those things into consideration as well.
Yeah, we're absolutely going to continue to fix the roads that we have and continue the path there. This wouldn't be any additional funding that would come out of our road improvement funds that we've got or anything like that. I mean, those are our number one priority. I believe that this would be a state, feds would help with some of the funding with this, with some STBG funds and things like that. But no, under any circumstances, this isn't going to take away from our road improvement fund in any way. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out, but that's not I don't think any of our intentions if we're going to
No,
support it.
I wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
Well, how much, there's not that much that even is the cities, is it?
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, that's what how far out the boundary is pretty short there before it hits to be.
Stops right past you.
Probably depends on the engineering and which way but it's, a couple hundred yards north of Euclid, which is where it would become a
Which then
county.
becomes Polk County.
And MLK is going to need reconstructed, I would think, in the next 5 years after driving down it many times to head north and south. It's got some serious problems on that road. So if we're going to reconstruct it, then let's be smart about reconstructing that road in the right way.
I do want to say one other thing if other people are done. The nature of this road in the 20 years that I've served has changed a little bit. I think 20 years ago or 22 years ago, somebody might make the case that building roads like this creates urban sprawl. My guess is 100% of the good development that would happen as a result of this and the houses that would be constructed will be 5 miles closer to the core of the city, of the metro area, than where, let's say, Ankeny is building now, or where West Des Moines is building. This is a chance, it may not be in the city, but it's a chance as we think about the environment and being good stewards of transportation systems, that this is a way to combat urban sprawl and not add to it.
Great point.
All right, I think we've got with that, maybe a motion to either accept this. I will also, in sort of to dovetail on what Bill was talking about that whole Douglas Avenue corridor and down to the river and all that, the RDG has been working on a study for that whole corridor that's really exciting. And Connie was there the other night, and Bill, you may have touched into it for a few minutes. Sure did. This whole idea with the proper planning for highways and transportation and with
Better sidewalks.
appropriate funding and sidewalks and multimodal transportation, I think could really add to this whole area. And, but I do agree, we need to be careful of funding sources and how it goes, because we've made a lot of promises around streets and roads, reconstruction, repairs. I mean, quite frankly, and storm sewer stuff around it too, which is around the Des Moines River as well, and around 4 Mile Creek and everywhere else. I mean, we are talking about $145 million on stormwater improvements. We're talking about over $300 million of improvements in streets on top of everything that we've been doing recently. We're talking about 180 miles of new connectivity through sidewalks and connecting people and have them ADA compliant and connecting students to schools in safe ways. We have really spent a lot of time, and as was pointed out, on the whole Move DSM thing. So thanks for bringing it all up. But I think these are all have to be on the table, and hopefully we can get the appropriate support to move these projects forward. I'm excited, and we're all sitting here committed to keeping that guide moving forward.
I'll move item 7 as it exists on our agenda, and then add to it a referral to the city manager's office to put this on a workshop agenda for, early 2020.
Seven yes, motion carried.
All right, next item, I believe, is item 42. However, well, I guess we got a couple of minutes left. So item 42 is approving a donation construction agreement with Kick It Forward regarding installation of a mini pitch system, Fitchesell Court at Birdland Sports Park, Council Communication number 19-488, and under that, renaming the Mike McPherson Tennis Complex to Birdland Sports Park Tennis Courts, and the sponsor on this item is Councilmember Coleman. Mr. Coleman.
Well, Linda was also there, and I'll let her
Yes.
go first.
Yes, I just wanted to extend my gratitude to the Parks Department and to the nonprofit Kick It Forward for choosing this location for the futsal court.
Sweet.
I had to Google it to figure out what it was.
Matt just explained it to me.
But it's very exciting, and there are so many things going on in Ward 2. I know we've got a new ropes course over farther east and with this, and there's just really a lot of things going on, and it's an exciting time to be in Ward 2. So I just want to thank Kick It Forward, and I look forward to being there to watch the first game.
And Linda, aren't they supposed to, upon approval, start construction immediately?
That's great.
Yeah, there's a nod, yes.
Here we
Let's
go.
do it.
Mr. Coleman?
Let's get it there.
I wanted to say exactly what Linda did, so good job. Our Parks Department keeps bringing interesting games and opportunities for our residents. I just think everything their team is doing, Ben, and everybody in Parks is hitting home runs every week. I think it's exciting. And like so much of what they've done, I think they're at the forefront for the city too of, recognizing the diversity of age groups and races and, ethnic cultures of what might be attractive to different groups of people playing different sports. So I'm really proud that we have this on our agenda and that we're moving forward. A long time ago, our daughter played it at the soccer house in Norwalk or Cumming down there, and it's a fun, great game, and small court. It'll be great and well used. So
It'll be
All right.
good.
We have a motion for 42 and
With that-
42A.
Can I move 42 and 42A? Thank you.
Do you want to call something out?
Good job, everybody. This sounds like fun, and thank you again to the Parks Department, and glad to hear with this vote we're moving forward. Quickly, let's move to item 43, which is amended schedule administrative penalties for failure to remove snow and ice from sidewalks in violation of Chapter 102 of the Municipal Code, Council Communication Number 19-505. Josh?
So I took a look at this, and this comes kind of after the work session that we had. And I had asked, because we're essentially adding an increased fee scale and adding, third, fourth, and fifth fees, right? Is what we were doing, or adding a few. We're increasing the fee scale and adding third, fourth, and fifth. But we're doing this within one snow season, and it's essentially, it's essentially going to be meaningless if we keep it within one snow season, at least based on past experience. We've, in the last 5 years, had 0 third offenses. But my guess is the people who are getting those first and second offenses are probably oftentimes the same people year after year. So what I would propose is, rather than make this within a snow season, maybe make it within 3 snow seasons. I would be curious as to legal's, we asked about that, and I think legal said that there were not issues, but the longer the time period, and maybe we run into additional risks.
I think the best way that I can explain our concern is that it's kind of the mirror, the opposite reflection back from our discussion earlier when we talked about compressing dates and times. If we extend dates and times out too far, I think it's going to be hard to hold that property owner to it. And I think the other concern that we would have is that it would need to be the same property owner, it's not just against the property, so it would have to be the same property owner.
You mean if they sold in between?
Right, if they sold it and then the next person that moves in, I don't think that we can charge them for whatever happened by the predecessor.
Sure, I think that's absolutely reasonable.
Okay.
Would you have concern with a 5-year?
Five starts to be too long. That gives us concerns. We'd want some time to flesh that out with more research. Try three.
Try 3. Let's do 3. So could we amend this to a 3-year?
Sure.
I think.
The longer
I think
the
you
better,
want-
to hold them accountable, because
Well, and
I've got a person that never shovels that lives in California, and didn't shovel the last time.
And if you have a mild winter in between two heavy winters, which it looks like, we've had a few mild winters.
Yeah.
And those would be, just for purposes of the record, those would be consecutive snow seasons that we're talking about.
Three consecutive snow seasons.
Okay, so the amended schedule of administrative penalties for failure to remove snow and ice from sidewalks in violation of Chapter 102 of the municipal code for a period of three consecutive. Snow seasons.
as defined in the code.
Okay.
For the
Is that
same.
good?
Yep,
All right.
Get that changed.
that's how it's moved.
By Councilmember Mandelbaum, moved.
Seven yes, motion carried.
All right, that, since it's 5:03, this takes us to hearings. Our first hearing item is item 55, on the conveyance of certain excess city property owned acquired as part of 2018 limited voluntary flood buyout program to the adjoining property owners for side yard purposes only. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on item 55? And we'll open the hearing. Anybody? Again, this is the limited voluntary flood buyout program. All right? Can we have a motion?
I'll move item 55.
Item 55 has been moved.
Seven yes, motion carried.
Item 56, it's on a request from the Des Moines Area Community College. DMAC is the owner, of Greg Martin is the officer, to rezone property at 1031 and 1039 9th Street from R4 multifamily residential to PUD planned unit development, and an amendment to the Human Services Campus PUD conceptual plan for property in the vicinity of 1111 9th Street to expand the PUD conceptual plan area to include the property requested for rezoning and extend the existing surface parking lot. Additional property within the PUD boundary is owned by the United Way of Central Iowa. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above, and B is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by the applicant and requires 6 votes, and the applicant again is DMAC. Let's open the hearing and see if there's anyone in the audience to speak to this item.
Seeing none, Mr. Mayor, I'll move 56A and 56B.
All right.
Seven yes, motion carried.
All right, takes item 57. Item 57, approving an urban renewal development agreement from Conley Lofts Associates, LP. Frank Levy is the officer to purchase and develop a multifamily housing project on city-owned property at 401 Southeast 6th Street and 400 Southeast 7th Street in the Metro Center urban renewal area, and approving the conceptual development plan, council communication number 19-496. Let's open the hearing and see if there's anyone here to talk to item 57. Anyone?
I see none, Mr. Mayor. I'll move item 57.
Item 57 has been moved. Any discussion?
I'll just add a couple things before we vote on this. I know the developers worked on the energy efficiency program as well as looking at running conduit for EV charging. I appreciate those efforts. Want to encourage, because I don't know the specifics on what you looked at in the Mid-American New Construction Program, but I think it'd be great to get a little farther beyond the building code than you currently are at, but we can talk about that separately offline. I'll support the project and appreciate the efforts.
Thanks, Josh.
Did you want me to take that again?
Yeah.
Do we still get to be talking about Conley Lofts after 3 years?
This is it.
This is it?
We're
Come
done.
on.
Build it.
Can we build in monthly updates?
Yeah. And they will come.
Yes.
Seriously? Good.
get his lunches, they go to doggy daycare.
Yeah.
Item 58, this is dismissing a hearing to rezone 601 24th Street and 602 23rd Street from R160 one-family low-density residential to limited R3 multifamily residential to allow the development of up to 7 units of 3-story row house dwellings. This item was continued from the October 14th, 2019 council meeting. Again, this motion is to dismiss this hearing. Anyone here to speak to this item?
I'll move item 58.
Item 58 has been moved.
7 yes, motion carried.
Item 59 is on the Leetown Creekway box culvert from Dean Avenue to UPRR, resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract documents, and the engineer's estimate, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as SM Henches and Sons, Inc., Stephen M. Henches, President, $5,424,221. Council Communication Number 19-491. A is approving the contract and the bond and permission to sublet. Let's open the hearing on item 59 on the Lee Township Creekway. Anyone? Step up, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Dan Manning, 317 6th Avenue, Des Moines, Iowa, representing the tenant at 3121 Dean, Feed Energy. Here tonight not to object to the project, frankly, to make it clear that on behalf of the tenant that we appreciate both the staff and the council involvement in this matter. What we're down to is the staging of this project as the easement is, as the culvert is installed across the 3121 Dean property. We had a very productive meeting with, we feel like we did, we're not there yet, but we think this thing is moving forward, and we're going to get to the point where we have a resolution. That's certainly our goal. We're here tonight just because we want to make sure that everyone understands that we appreciate where we are, where we need to be, and we certainly support the project, and we hope we can get this staging issue resolved.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
thank you. I appreciate the involvement. Mr. Mayor was there and myself, and I thought we had a productive meeting with your owner. Obviously, we know that we have to come up with a resolution sooner than later. We understand your time. We understand your timeline, and I'm hoping that, with the help of staff, and they've been very, very good to work with. I feel like they've been bending over backwards and trying to come up with a resolution. But we have many, many homes that are affected. And
We appreciate that as well, and we appreciate everyone's involvement.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
So I will move. That being said, I will move item 59 and 59A.
Seven yes, motion carried.
Item 60 is on the Simon Estes River sheeting, resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, designating the lowest responsible bidder as Kramer and Associates, Inc., Robert Kramer, President and CAO, $417,350. Council Communication Number 19-492. A is approving the contract and the bond. And I will open the hearing and ask if there's anyone here to speak to this item at the Simon Estes River Sheeting Project. Anyone?
I see none. I'll move 60 and 60A.
Okay.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, let's note that it is 5:12, and that completes the hearings and takes us back to item 49. Item 49 is an ordinance, second consideration, that was pulled by Councilmember Gatto. It's amending Chapter 114 of the Municipal Code relating to the rates for city parking garages. A is the final consideration of the ordinance above, and the waivers requested by the city manager and requires 6 votes. Joe.
Yeah, so, Mr. Mayor, thank you. We had a lengthy discussion about our budget this morning, and the new garage at East 4th and Des Moines Street, we're waiting for the control arms. They weren't going to be installed until middle of January, maybe the end of January, February 1, they were going to be installed. So Councilmember Bozeman and myself and the rest of the council agreed that it would be beneficial for the East Village to allow some additional parking there, and we would do that until January 1 for free in the lower level of that parking garage. That'll be part of this resolution. I believe that was written in, correct?
It's made the, what was changed was the effective date is May, January 1, 2020, so there's no
Okay.
change in the rates until January 1, 2020.
Right, okay, so that one, so we'll be able to enter that one free of charge, be able to use it. So I would encourage, hopefully we'll be able to get the word out to the business owners, maybe some of their employees can use it. If not, obviously, I'm hoping some of the shoppers can use it in the East Village, that they're going to be there. So I will move, that being said, I will move 49 and 49A.
And that relates specifically to the first level.
Only the first level is only the public parking for that garage. The rest is lease parking, is my understanding.
So it's the holiday gift to the East Village.
It is the holiday gift to the East Village, yes, and thank you for that. It was a brilliant idea by you.
Good job.
She
Connie.
understands retail.
7 yes. Motion
I-
carried.
I shared this idea earlier at the CVB,
Sorry
and
for jumping
they
in.
were all fired.
All right.
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah,
us
hopefully-
to item 51. That was the end of the consent agenda. Our last item was at item 49. 51 is amending various sections of Chapter 26 of the Municipal Code regarding the adoption of the State of Iowa Plumbing Code and Mechanical Code. Council Communication number 19-499. A, the Energy Code. These are building and building regulation. One is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waivers requested by Chris Johansson, who is the Community Development Department Director. It requires 6 votes. B is buildings and building regulations. One is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waivers requested again by Chris Johansson, the Community Development Department Director, and again requires 6 votes. C is the National Fuel Gas Code Amendments, Mechanical Code, and Fuel Gas Code. One is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waivers again requested by Chris Johansson, Community Development Department Director, and requires 6 votes. D is an adoption of the State Plumbing Code. One under that is the final consideration of the ordinance above. And again, the waivers requested by Chris Johansson, the Community Development Department Director, and again requires 6 votes. Let's open it up and see if anybody has any comments on any of these code amendments. Anything? Anybody?
I have a question on,
Help me what number that is.
I don't, I meant to ask this beforehand, so I apologize, but 51A, the Energy Code, I don't know what changes are being made to that.
Here, I don't know what they are, but there's, did you see A, B, C?
Yeah, no, it's A that I'm interested in understanding.
Yeah, it's like for
That's why he's here, unshaved and all.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Cody Christensen, Permit Development Administrator. Mr. Mandelbaum, in response to your question, a number of these, like items A, B, and C, are merely changing out the references to the International Plumbing Code and the International Mechanical Code to read the State Plumbing Code and the State Mechanical Code.
Okay, so that's all that it's doing within the Energy Code?
It is, yep. It's just changing the references.
State Mechanical Code, but it's not changing to the State Energy Code?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I asked a similar question, and it turned out, as I looked into it, it was about nuts and bolts and sealing materials and stuff like that, as opposed to efficiency, which is what I was hoping it was about. But I guess this is a very specific change in how these systems are put together.
It is, and the code cycles don't specifically line up where the state adopts the plumbing and mechanical codes. It doesn't line up with the adoption cycle that we use for adopting our other codes. That's why you see the amendments to some of these other codes that reference those two.
All right. Any other questions?
I see none. I'll move 51A, B, C, and D. Do I have to do 51A1, 51B1, 51C1, and 51D1?
That's perfect, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
It's a mouthful.
You would think I would know that by now.
Josh, I don't know where you were going with it, but I was hoping that we were going to be looking at energy code updates that were maybe a little more stringent in terms of performance of equipment and that sort of thing, but
Well,
that wasn't what it was about.
And my concern was that we weren't, our code is better than the state code on the energy code, and I don't want to backtrack.
Yep, I'm with you.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, that takes us to item 52. Item 52 is amending Chapter 114 of the Municipal Code regarding traffic regulation changes as follows. Council Communication Number 19-494. A is a proposed parking restriction, Evergreen Avenue between Southeast 19th Street and Southeast 20th Street. B is a code modifications related to school passenger loading and unloading on Park Avenue and Southwest 7th Street to Park Avenue Elementary School. Let's go ahead and ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak to any of these items. Amending Chapter 114.
Mr. Mayor, real quick, this issue was brought up at the meeting that you and I were at, the neighborhood meeting, and so hats off to our staff because they've moved in a matter of 3 weeks, putting this on the agenda and making this the parking restriction on Evergreen. And
Yep.
we had a citizen tell us about it. The next day I made the phone call, they went out and checked it, and sure enough, 3 weeks later, we've got it on the agenda, and we're going to have a sign up, so.
Yeah, great follow-up by staff. Thank
That's
you.
really, really good and good response time. It's something that's a public safety issue that worked out really good. So thank you, Steve, and your team. We really do appreciate the quick response. I'll move 52A and B if no one else has any other comments. And I'll waive the second and third reading.
Seven yes, motion carried.
I thought you were just waving at me, Laura. I just wanted to talk.
All right, item 53 was not used, moves us to item 54. These are items regarding the annual urban renewal report, AURR, and tax increment financing TIF certification. Council Communication Number 19-502. A is advance of funds to the Metro Center Urban Renewal Project for planning, oversight, and administration for $800,000. B is a recommendation from the city manager regarding TIF needs for fiscal year 2020 through 2021 and a certification of TIF indebtedness. C is the urban renewal report for the urban renewal plans in areas within the city of Des Moines. We did begin a discussion on this morning. However, I think that this is going to be taken up at one of our next.
Smidwell, yes.
The Smidwell. So, any rate, if anybody has any thoughts regarding the Schmid areas and TIP areas, otherwise, we'll look for a motion.
I will move it. I did ask in preparation for the agenda, and maybe everybody got this list. But, most of the TIF things that we've done have been 20 years. Matt, authored a number of those. That's significant because the real uptick in our ability to leverage TIF for the citizens of Des Moines started about 20 years ago. And this year and every year going forward, some of those early TIF projects are going to roll off. Early on, they were like everything for 20 years. And just like the hotels and others, we have it, now they're getting 75% for 10 years instead of 100% for 20. Anyway, the next couple of years are going to be big for the city as projects like Nationwide, all those buildings come off and start to pour a lot of funds into the city coffers. because of the investment we made 20 years ago. And I hope that you celebrate that as those start to come off. Nationwide is called Allied on that list, by the way.
Wellmark 2022.
Wellmark comes off quicker because that was a more recent one, didn't last as long. And, you know, a lot of us are concerned about different aspects of these, but, you know, a lot of this TIF stuff helped them become more, you know, LEED compliant in terms of energy efficiency and making sure that they had real jobs and they weren't just hollow shells of servers, for instance. You know, this has worked out really well for the city, and I think we're going to see all that investment and hard decisions of the council pay off. And I hope that you celebrate it. And that's kind of an early list as we look at the next 3 or 4 years.
And I think that to your point, as we've changed those policies, we've seen a roll-up of the amount of money that's coming out of those projects that is being released into the general fund to support the school district and the county and whatever. And I think that number is, I don't know, gone from like 8 to 30 million more.
Yeah.
In the
huge.
recent past. So hats off to our budget finance people and looking at it. We pushed very hard to look at those kinds of projects and how they're funded and make sure that everything that we do is moving forward to supporting the whole city and moving forward. And some of those funds are what allows us to make the investments that I talked about earlier. So good point, Mr. Coleman.
We keep getting smarter. You made the point about returning to the county and the school district. We talked about the need for better mental health. That's what the county does. That funds, you know, returning that to them gives them the necessary funds to do that. We could consume that. The other thing that goes, I think, unnoticed by many is we're using this more and more for leverage. Joe has a really good hotel project in the East Village. They got TIF money because we didn't want any parking on the first floor. You know, we wanted some commercial and retail and restaurants or a bar. And so it's helping us design a better city as well that'll be more sustainable long-term.
Yep.
I'll move it. I don't have it in front of me, but it's
54.
54
A, B, and C.
B, and C.
Seven yes, motion carried.
All right, that takes us to one extra item that's on the, this evening, that was added, and it's a direction to the city manager regarding a tax levy decrease of 40 cents per thousand valuation for the homeowners and small businesses of City of Des Moines. And sponsor is myself. I quickly will read the direction to the city manager regarding this. He is to look at a budget and show us what that looks like and how that might be achieved. But whereas the mayor and city council acknowledge the affordable homes and neighborhoods are critical to the success of our city, and whereas keeping property taxes low is critical to ensuring our city remains affordable, and whereas the mayor and city council have already lowered the city's total property tax levy by 60 cents per 1,000 in value in 2019, and whereas the city has new revenue from the local option sales and service tax, and the city's homeowners are experiencing rising home values. And whereas at the November 18, 2019 City Council work session, the mayor proposed decreasing the total property tax rate an additional 40 cents per 1,000 valuation, and the council believes that such an additional decrease is appropriate and for benefit of its citizens and small business owners, resulting in a cumulative total property tax levy decrease of $1 in 2019. This would be enacted, I believe, in 2020-21 to the lowest tax rate in over 24 years.
How long?
24 years.
Before you.
That's before you.
Whoa.
And now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Des Moines that the council is hereby directing the city manager to recommend a budget for the fiscal year 2021, which reduces the city's total property tax levy by an additional 60 cents, or 40 cents, I'm sorry, per 1,000 in valuation. And we've asked him to look at that and kind of look at all of our priorities that we mentioned earlier that we're moving forward with and made commitments for to our citizens. But we think it's important that he give us a recommendation back in regard to our request. So that would be what I'm putting forward for a vote this evening. Anybody?
I'll start. I'm sure other people have stuff. I think that this is brilliant. You know, one of the reasons why we're elected by the people is we have to go out and listen to them. And what I've heard more than any time in my career on the council is that people are happy that their assessments are going up. You know, I put on Facebook today, that's my largest investment. I don't have any investment that I root for that it doesn't go up. My retirement is dependent on it. It's like my 401k or a money market. I want it to go up in value as much as it can. But when it goes up too quick, because that's part of the formula for what your taxes are, the city has to respond. And Mayor, I'm really proud of you for recognizing that and recommending this to the council. I'm sensitive that we run the risk, while other communities have been able to cut their taxes more drastically, that we're going to fall behind and give people a convenient excuse to move away, not raise their family here, buy their second house in a different community. We want people to come to Des Moines, stay here, and live here for life. And part of that is respecting the pressure on their own budget and us spending money like it's our own. And so being reasonable in the tax levy is brilliant. And I appreciate your leadership on this.
And to everybody in the audience, we have been starting our budget discussions 3 months ago, moving into this season, because we've got to certify March 15th. And it's important that we move this discussion forward and give direction to our staff and to our city manager and his team. We can't wait another few weeks or another month to have this discussion. These staff members have their responsibilities. They have to look at the implications here and give us a report back as we look at finalizing this budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. And so it's our responsibility to have respect to the staff to move this directive forward so that they can give us appropriate feedback and direction. So with that being said, anybody else have anything? Yep.
I too support it, Mayor. Thank you very much. This will help the citizens in our city.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for bringing this up. Obviously, we've been to a lot of neighborhood meetings together. We've been talking to our residents. Heard a lot about assessments. It's hard.
Which we don't control.
Yeah, right. It's hard to differentiate where the assessment and where our levy rate is and where those things are. But I think it's important to note to our residents that with a 40-cent decrease, this doesn't affect, and to our employees of the city, it doesn't affect that we're doing cuts to services. That is not what we're looking to do. Our assessment has grown tremendously and will go into effect this fall. So if we don't react to that, and I've said it from the very beginning, I wouldn't vote for a budget that didn't have a significant increase. And I think this is significant. We are still going to see an increase to our property taxes.
Decrease.
We're not here
Decrease, Joe.
An increase. No,
You mean you wanted a significant decrease?
this is a significant decrease, but I do believe with the assessment still.
Oh, that.
The dollar amount that we're all going to pay is not going to be less. And I think that we need to make sure that we're clarifying that. And we're not reducing the services that we're going to provide to our citizens. And no employees are going to lose their job when we talk about a decrease in the levy rate. So I think that that's important that everyone knows that, to all of our employees and to all of our residents. I think this is really a great step in the right direction. I'm sure that Scott's going to come up with a great budget, that we're still going to be able to do all of our CIP budget, all of our CIP things. We're going to be able to still keep our services where what we have promised that we're going to provide, that we're still going to be able to do that. And no one's going to lose their job. I think that's very important, because I'm sure when people start hearing the council is going to reduce taxes, the next thing they think of, well, am I going to lose my job? And that's not what we're up here going to do. At least that's not what I'm looking to do. But I am looking at providing the basic services for our residents and providing that at a cost that where we can say, hey, we see what your assessment's going to do, and we're not going to allow that to, keep our levy rate. We have to lower our levy rate, because a lot of the properties went up 10 to 15 to sometimes 20%. You can't have that and not reduce the levy rate. So thank you, Mayor, for bringing it to everyone's attention and directing the staff to do what they needed to do, and I applaud you for those efforts and bringing it to the forefront this quick. So thank you.
Well, we're in the budget cycle. It need to be done now rather than later. Anybody else?
When we go out for the community conversations too, I think, by then we'll have probably the budget, and I think we just have to be able to address to our citizens and ask them too, are you, as long as we can maintain all the services and everything that we've got in the CIP and that we're proposing, and then, say, they're still saying we need more, then we need to offset that with how much are we going to do as services and how much are we going to reduce the levy, and where does it all come out? I know we're getting more in the sales tax than I think the assessment, so we still might, do we still have an increase? I think we have to be able to weigh those things with what we also hear when we go out, that we need more done in a lot of different areas, more, infrastructure things done. So I think I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we're still going to be able to do it. What else do we need to do, and how fast could we do it if we had more? So.
Right.
Given that whole picture, so people can have an open discussion.
And we're asking the management
Right.
to bring that back to
Right.
us to show us what that means. Bill?
Yeah, as you mentioned, we go to the neighborhood meetings, and for like it or not, they're going to come back, they came and say to us, you raised my taxes. No, we did not. We lowered it 60 cents. The assessment went up. People don't understand that. And so I think we're taking the right step in taking another bite on the levy. And like Councilman Gatto said, it probably is not going to make a difference where it's going to be below what they paid before, but it shows that we're addressing an issue that they can understand and want to get resolved to the best of their ability. So I think we're going at it in the right direction, and I like the idea that, as Councilman Gatto said, we're not costing any jobs, we're not taking anything out of CIP, we're making sure that we're competitive in the housing market, and we make sure that our residents feel like they're a part of the process, and we've done a good job of listening and made adjustments accordingly. So hats off to you, Mayor, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, and I'm going to support asking the manager to come back with a recommendation and understanding what this looks like. I think
Right.
understanding the implications are important. Like many things we do, this is part of getting the balance right. And one of the things that I know, because I hear it a lot, and it will only increase because even if we reduce our levy rate, people will be seeing an increase in what they are paying because the assessments have gone up significantly. And when they do, people expect our services to go up. Even if we're decreasing our levy rate, people expect it. The thing that I get all the time is for the taxes I pay, I want my road in X condition, or I want to be able to go to the library on a Saturday. Those are the type of things that I hear, and it's important that we understand the implication and that we can stay on track with the investments that we have been making in terms of the roads that we are building and reconstructing so that the quality of our roads continue to improve so that we're hitting that long term where we turn around our situation. Because I think we are on that path, but I want to make sure that we stay on that path. And I'd even like to accelerate that path in terms of improving our existing roads. if we have the ability, because I think that service is what I hear the most from our residents. They want to improve that. Similarly, the request for sidewalks, and we're taking important steps on our priority one sidewalks, but there's a lot more to be done. We know that it's going to be a long, slow process, even with the increased investment that we made. And so I want to make sure that we are balancing and we understand what's not going to be getting done if we do this. Because we talk about responding when the assessments go up in a significant way. But typically, this is, we don't talk about the opposite when assessments are stagnant. I mean, what we do in the good years balance out the bad. And what we do when assessments are stagnant is we tighten our belts a little bit because we don't want to increase taxes. So we need to be mindful of that, and we need to think about what kind of long-term investments we can make that will improve service, and we need to understand all of the implications. So those are the type of things that when this comes back, I'm going to be looking to see from the manager's budget and looking to understand. I think it's appropriate to take this step at this time because you can't, if you don't evaluate it, if you don't get that information, we can't make a good decision going forward. And I think it's important that we do that.
Thank you. So I generally don't move this. Does somebody want to move it?
I'll move this. I'll move extra item 1, unless you,
And I want to say, in support of everything that's been set up here, it is our directive to staff and to the manager, as they put this together, that they make sure that we can make good on all of the promises that we made on the investments in streets, in infrastructure, in parks, in sidewalks, in the neighborhoods that we laid out, and to Josh's point, to make sure we keep those libraries open. That's part of what our whole local option sales tax was. We said that's what we're going to do, and we want to make sure that we can maintain those promises and deliver on them. I won't back down from that either, but I think that with the appropriate look at our budget and with a really good, sharp financial staff that I think that we've put together over the last number of years, we're going to be able to deliver, and I want to thank all the council for supporting this.
7 yes.
Good work.
Motion carried.
All right, and with that, unless anybody has, did you want to say something? I see you on crutches, you came in.
he's just here to listen to us.
You're just here to listen to us. Well, thanks for coming down. We thank our brothers here from our various labor areas. Thanks for coming down this evening. And to all of you that put up with us till 5:41, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
So is it?